Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Past Eid Mubarak to you all. Hope everyone has enjoyed it. So, coming to the topic, we were discussing few important themes in general toxicology in last two lectures. Today I will take up two of those themes. Number one is use of antidotes in the treatment of poisoning, and number two is elimination of absorbed poisons. Before, I have talked about the following important questions like branches of toxicology, factors affecting toxicity of a poison, legal duties of doctor in an acute case of poisoning, emesis, its indications and contraindications and use, and gastric lavage, its indications, contraindications and complications. So today the first I will take a start from antidotes. So what are antidotes? These are remedies which counteract or neutralize effects of poison without causing harm to body. So you will get a question in Prof, as it has been asked many times in the past on antidotes, that define antidotes or what are antidotes. So you will write this definition. Then question may be asked to you, classify antidotes or give types of antidotes. That I will tell you in next slide. So what are indications of use of antidotes? When we should use? Because we have already discussed, we already know that if a person or patient is brought to hospital for treatment, the doctor has to treat him and he has to determine whether the poison was ingested, inhaled, injected or applied on skin. So where antidotes can be used among these? For these we have a look at these indications. Indication number one, poison may not have been completely removed by emesis or gastric lavage, or both are contraindicated. So I hope it's clear to you that this we are talking about ingested poisons, and when a patient comes, first he can be used emetics or gastric lavage can be done. So if that has been done and still poison is there, then antidotes can be used, or if these procedures are contraindicated, even then antidotes will help. Now indication number two is poison has already been absorbed. Now this is again about ingested poison, that it was absorbed from intestine, entered the bloodstream. Now gastric lavage or emesis will not help, but antidotes can help. Indication number three is, now he is talking about other routes other than ingestion. So poisons administered by route other than ingestion, like injection, inhalation, etc. So for these you have to straight away start from antidotes. Now next is classification of antidotes or types of antidotes. So these antidotes are divided into 6 groups based on mode of action, their mode of action. That means how they act. Number 1 group is mechanical or physical antidotes. Number 2, chemical antidotes. Number 3, pharmacological or physiological antidotes. Number 4, dispositional antidotes. Number 5, universal antidote. And number 6, chelating agents. Now first you should learn by heart these names. They will, if you get question, then first you can enlist these and then you get some marks for them. Then you have to describe briefly whatever the question is. Number 1 is mechanical antidotes. Now they are 3 subgroups like emulsions, bulky food, activated charcoal. What is their mode of action? How they act? They impede absorption by their presence. This means when you give them to someone, they will prevent absorption, they will stop absorption, or they will retard, slow it down very slow. So the first subgroup of mechanical is emulsions. These are mainly fats. They prevent absorption by forming a coating on mucous membrane of stomach. So naturally that coating will help to protect stomach walls and will slow down or stop or prevent absorption. Examples are fats, oils, milk and dairy, and egg albumin. Number 2 subgroup of mechanical poisons is bulky foods. Example is banana. Now if someone swallows some glass particles, broken glass particles or something like that, then banana will help. By taking banana or eating banana, the parts of banana will engulf those glass particles, so they will not be absorbed or go further. Number 3 is activated charcoal. Remember, we are still in first group, that is called mechanical or physical antidotes. Activated charcoal is very effective, is very important for treatment of poisons, and also very important as SCQ. So you get a question which says that what is activated charcoal, what is its mode of action, what is its dose, what are indications and contraindications, and how it is prepared. So this question you may not find in detail in book. Now this is mode of action is it absorbs many poisons, especially alkaloidal and mineral. So how it is produced? It is produced by burning or destructive distillation of pulp of wood. and heated to higher temperature, that is called activation. It is inert, tasteless, odorless, and becomes paste on mixing with water. Mode of action is adsorption. It is not absorption. It is adsorption. It is different than absorption. Its mechanical interaction or union with the poison. It surrounds the poison particles. Now dose of activated charcoal is 60 to 100 grams mixed in water in ratio of 1:5. So that means 1 part of charcoal and 5 parts of water. This is for adults. 30 to 60 grams mixed in water in same ratio. This is dose for children. Now what are indications of activated charcoals, where it can be used? Number 1, where emesis is contraindicated. Number 2, even after emesis it is helpful. Number 3, unconscious patient, where emesis and gastric lavage is contraindicated. These are main indications, and contraindication of charcoal is only one, that is absence of bowel sounds. That means intestinal obstruction. In such cases it is not given. Group number 2 is chemical antidotes. Now chemical antidotes, they are different from mechanical. Their mode of action was mechanical combination and no chemical reaction. But here it is a chemical reaction between poison and the antidote. So they act by direct chemical action or oxidizing poison. So they have 2 types of actions. Number 1, they have direct chemical action. Number 2, they will cause oxidation. Examples are dilute acetic acid or vinegar, which neutralize alkalis. Now this dilute acetic acid is itself an acid or weak acid. It is a weak acid, but it is effective to neutralize alkalis, poisons which are alkaloidal. Number 2 is milk of magnesia. This is a weak alkali and it is effective for acids. Now the potassium permanganate is oxidizing agent for alkaloids. So potassium permanganate is non-specific antidote for all alkaloids because it will cause oxidation. Group number 3 is physiological or pharmacological antidotes. Some books have separate names. Both are separate, but here in Parekh he has combined them. So both come under the same group, physiological and pharmacological antidotes. Now they produce effects opposite to that of poison. Example is atropine is a physiological or pharmacological antidote for pilocarpine poisoning, and naloxone is such antidote for morphine poisoning. This you have read this opium poisoning or morphine poisoning, and you know naloxone is the antidote. Number 4 group of antidotes is called dispositional antidotes. Now how they act? They act by causing alterations. That means changes. They cause changes in absorption of poisons, metabolism of poisons, distribution of poisons in the body, or excretion of poison or a toxic substance. So, what is the effect of these changes? So, when they act, they will reduce the amount of poison available to tissues. That means they will change the nature of poison chemically, or some other barrier they will put on poison, and then so less and less amount of poison will be left for the tissues, and that means less poisoning. N-acetylcysteine is example of dispositional antidote, and this you also know from your previous knowledge of special toxicology. It is used in paracetamol poisoning. Group number 5, universal antidote. Now it's no more used, it's obsolete, and it's not effective. This you should keep in mind, but since it is given in the book, so you have to know what is it. It was used in past when nature of ingested poison was not known. Patient didn't know, doctor couldn't find out, or when a combination of 2 or more poisons was taken. So there was no specific antidote for these mixture of poisons. So universal antidote, what is it? It is a mixture of readily available substances. So a mixture of some kind of antidotes has been made, and they are three different type of antidotes are mixed together, and they form universal antidote. It's a non-specific remedy, but now no more used. So part number 1 or antidote number 1 is powdered charcoal or burnt toast, that also becomes charcoal. Quantity is 2 parts of powdered charcoal, and number 2 is magnesium oxide or milk of magnesia. This 1 part of this one. Number 3, tannic acid, or even strong tea, because tea contains tannin. So strong tea is also a tannic acid preparation, 1 part of tannic acid. When we mix these in this ratio, it becomes universal antidote. Now, what is purpose of charcoal, powdered charcoal? It adsorbs alkaloids. As you already know from previous slide, mechanical antidotes, activated charcoal does adsorption. Now magnesium oxide is an alkali, and what it does, it neutralizes acids. Tannic acid is kind of acid, it precipitates the poison. So what is dose of this universal antidote? It is 1 tablespoonful in 200 ml of water, that means 1 tablespoon of this mixture is added in 1 glass or cup of water and mixed well. It becomes a kind of drink. Another important question is asked about universal antidote. What is myth of universal antidote? Now, what is myth? That means something is famous. Universal antidote was famous for something, that it is an effective antidote when poison nature is not known, but it was a myth. It was not true. So why it was myth? Because why it is not effective? Because this powdered charcoal action is adsorption. So powdered charcoal in universal antidote will adsorb magnesium oxide of universal antidote. So that means instead of adsorption to poison, it will absorb other part. The part number 1 will adsorb part number 2. So what will happen? That means no more charcoal available for poison. It will be wasted. So that is why it is ineffective. This is reason number 1. And reason number 2 was that tannic acid was found to be hepatotoxic in animals. When experiments were done on animals, it was found to be hepatotoxic. So it was not, of course, then recommended for human use. Next group of antidotes is chelating agents. Now these are special types of antidotes for heavy metals. So what is chelate? Is a Greek word. This means claw. Now a bird's claw, you have seen a bird's claw. What is the use of bird's claw? Because that is bird when wants to sit on something, even on wire or even on a rope or even on small branch of a tree, the bird can easily sit because of her claws. So chemically their structure, chelating agents have a structure like a claw, and this claw they bind directly with metal ions, positive ions, that means of metals like calcium, arsenic, lead, mercury, etc. So they are specific antidotes against some heavy metals. Now what is their chemical action, or chemically what they do? They produce firm non-ionized cyclic complex, chelate. This is called chelate with cations, positive ions, and they form stable, soluble, non-toxic complexes with calcium and certain heavy metals. Now they come in combination, chemical combination with heavy metals, and so these are called chelated complex. So these chelated complexes are soluble in water, so they are excreted through urine. And what they do? They lower blood levels of heavy metals. So that means they bind with heavy metals from blood vessels which are everywhere in the body. So they can remove this poison from organs and blood vessels, and then and then excreted through kidneys via urine. Examples are BAL, EDTA, penicillamine and desferrozamine. So we take up one by one. Chelating agent number 1 is BAL. It is abbreviation of British anti-Levizite. Basically it was a gas used in World War II. Also other name is dimercaprol. So there are two names, British anti-Levizite and dimercaprol, and abbreviation is BAL. It is used in heavy metal poisoning, that is for arsenic poisoning. Dose, now what is its dose? A deep intramuscular injection in 10% solution in arachis oil with benzyl benzoate. In severe poisoning or acute poisoning, dose is 3 milligram per kg body weight is injected to patient 4 hourly for first 2 days. That means after every 4 hours this injection is given for first 2 days. Then 6 hourly on third day and 12 hourly for next 10 days. So for first 2 days 4 hourly means 6 times a day, and 6 hourly means 4 times a day, and 12 hourly means 2 times a day. Hopefully the patient recovers, but if not, it may be repeated. Now what is contraindication of BAL? It can be given to patients of arsenic or heavy metal poisoning, but if their liver is compromised, if it is damaged due to any disease or toxicity or poisoning, then it's contraindicated. It is because it is hepatotoxic. Now the other one is EDTA, that is again an abbreviation of ethylene diamine tetraacetate. This can be used for lead, mercury and arsenic poisoning. Dose of EDTA is 1 gram BD, that means 2 times a day, by slow intravenous infusion in isotonic glucose saline for 5 days. This course can be repeated after an interval of 2 days. Now this EDTA is superior to BAL, that means it has better or more effective than BAL for arsenic and mercury poisoning, but it is contraindicated in renal damage. So it is not advisable to the patients who have some renal or kidney disease. Number 3, third chelating agent is penicillamine. Other name is cuprimine. Now this is product of penicillin. It is derived from penicillin. So it is degradation product of penicillin. And what is the advantage of penicillin over the first two? That is, it can be given orally and continuously. Number 1. Number 2, it is less toxic than EDTA and BAL. So these are great advantages. Oral use for long time can be given, and then it is less toxic. Its treatment of choice in copper, lead and mercury poisoning. It's very useful in Wilson's disease. So Wilson disease is some disorder of copper metabolism. So for that purpose penicillamine is effective. What is the dose of penicillamine? It is 30 gram per kg body weight, and maximum dose is up to 2 grams per day in 4 divided doses. So maximum you can give 2 grams, but you will have to divide it into 4, that means 6 hourly. You will give 0.5 gram every 6 hourly, which will become 2 grams in one day, but that is maximum. Chelating agent number 4 is desfurosamine. This is for acute iron poisoning. It is very effective, and in certain chronic diseases like hematochromatosis. Now this is again some disorder of iron metabolism for which it is effective. That was about antidotes. Next topic, which is small today, is elimination of absorbed poisons. What elimination means? Removal. So this is mainly excretion. It deals with excretion. It is not doing any chemical action, or it's not counteracting or neutralizing poisons. It is just removing them from body through excretion. So especially from urine, following methods are used: forced diuresis. Now these are methods of elimination of absorbed poison. So if you get a question, first you should enlist those methods. They are: number 1, forced diuresis; number 2, catharsis; number 3, peritoneal dialysis; number 4, hemodialysis / heme perfusion; number 5, exchange transfusion; and number 6, whole bowel irrigation. So sometimes you get a question on forced diuresis or any other method. Now what is forced diuresis? We can achieve this by accelerating excretion of poison in urine. So how we can increase excretion of poison in urine? That is called, we administer more fluid. So plenty fluid, ample fluid means plenty amount of fluid is given to the patient, and it will cause diuresis. Sometimes diuretics, the drugs which cause diuresis, are used, like mannitol, chlorothiazide is also called mannitol, and this is effective in salicylate poisoning and amphetamine poisoning and barbiturate poisoning. Number 2 is catharsis. This is by use of magnesium sulfate or magnesium citrate. This is given orally, and it will excrete poison from stools. Sorbitol can be used. Number 3 is peritoneal dialysis. Now this is mainly used for salicylate poisoning in children. So from peritoneum the poison is removed. Number 4, hemodialysis or heme perfusion. So this is everybody knows what is hemodialysis. So this is for removing barbiturates, salicylates and methyl alcohol. This is basically removal of poison from blood. Number 5 is exchange transfusion. This means the blood containing poison is removed from the body of the child and a fresh blood which is replaced by fresh non-toxic blood. So this can be used in small children for all types of poisons. Number 6, a new technique, it is called whole bowel irrigation, can be used. It is alternate to all above methods. So if one uses this whole bowel irrigation, then there is no need for any other method. So with that we conclude today's topic, but in the end I want to again tell you few important SCQs from general toxicology, like branches of toxicology. You can get a question, enlist branches of toxicology and describe forensic toxicology, or they may ask any other branch like clinical toxicology or any other. Next question is, enlist factors affecting toxicity of a poison, how dose modifies action, or discuss dose. So that means again you have to enlist factors and then you have to describe dose. This I have taught you in last lecture. They may ask any other factor also to describe, but mainly mostly dose is asked. Another question may be asked is, what are legal duties of a doctor in case of acute poisoning when the patient is brought to emergency. Next question may be, what is gastric lavage, what are indications, contraindications and complications of gastric lavage. Another question is antidotes, which we discussed just now. Define antidotes, or what are types of antidotes, what is dispositional antidote, describe it, or any other group, or what is activated charcoal, how it is produced, what is its dose. So this can be asked. Another question, how poisons are eliminated from the body. Few other questions are like, what is toxicity rating scale, and atropinization. Atropinization is actually giving atropine in insecticide poisoning, organophosphate poisoning. There you can Professor Saab has told you how atropine is given and what it does. So that is called atropinization. With that I conclude. Thank you very much.